This is Dads Watching Sports. It's the show by dads who watch sports, for dads who watch sports, or just dads in general. Here are the dads with a plan for every hashtag dad life and sports fan, Kyle Castles and Michael Draper.
Hello, hello, hello. This is not Kyle Castles and Michael Draper. I understand the intro song said that, but tonight you are graced with me and one of my good friends and another one that will join later. And Ryan, I'll let you get into all that, but this is Ryan Watson from Coach's Corner on Broadway Sports. Is it Broadway Sports or Broadway Sports Media?
Broadway Sports Media.
Broadway Sports Media. Great to have you. We are live on Off the Ball Network. This is Sunday, July 25th, 2021, episode 74 of Dads Watching Sports. Again, I am Kyle Castles. We have new dads this week. Ryan, you've been on the show before, but in case somebody missed that show, and if you have missed that show, please go back and listen. It's worth a listen. But introduce us to you and your show, and we can talk bad about Boren until he gets here, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anyone, first of all, let me start with this. Great job with the intro. I know you had a little bit of anxiety about that, but I think, you were flawless. You were just as good as Michael there. Didn't skip a beat. And that's what pros do. When they need to sub in, they come in and they do a great job when they're replacing and stepping up to a role. So well done there, sir.
We're both former athletes. We understand the next man up mentality, right?
Sure. Exactly. So, yeah. So as you mentioned, and if you listened to those shows in the past, Kyle and I coached long eons ago at this point in time, but it's probably some of my fondest coaching memories as far as the stories, what all we got into that year, the teams that were involved. And for me personally, I was coming from being a college coach, which was a completely different environment, to a high school. And I was like, are these guys going to accept me? Am I even going to be listened to, or am I going to listen to them? And it was just great. It was like a family environment. We had a lot of fun with that staff. No names, but poking fun at each other, at other coaches, just all the stories went over last time. So, and then among that was Boren coaching with us. And that's actually how Jonathan and I met as well. So over the past couple of years, he and I started our own podcast a couple years ago, taking it to the house sports. It took off tremendously. That's why you've heard of it. No, not really. So we kind of started off doing kind of a catch-all football. We just wanted to talk ball because our idea was, we do this every Sunday when we're watching these games together. Let's just put mics in front of us and see if we make any sense. So we did that for a little bit, kind of got Titans centric, and we met some other group. And what we decided to do, we took some time off due to family stuff. And then we got this together, this other group. We started Broadway Sports Media. And in a nutshell, Broadway Sports Media kind of looked around the landscape of Nashville sports and Nashville talk. And you had your big boys. You had ESPN would come in and do like some stories every now and then. You had some great personalities in the area, TD Davenport, and otherwise it did a great job. But we felt like there was a gap, and we wanted to try to fill that gap because a lot of us had analytical minds. We had a background for it. We had some video guys. So we said, what can we do and pull this all together, focus on Nashville sports, and bring a great product? And that's what we've done. So I write a few articles myself in the trenches, as it started with an offensive line, defensive line look every week at the games for the Titans. Mm-hmm. But that morphed into an offensive all 22 breakdown after the games, which I really enjoy because that's what I spent most of my career doing. And then Jonathan and I have the Coach's Corner, and it's difficult because we're not a every week podcast. We're pretty much just in season because we tried to do a few off-season shows and we went, we have nothing to talk about. We break down games because we have so many other great podcasts that are under our house, like F Words Pod and Music City Audible, that kind of are catch-all shows that are great, and you have some great personalities, Justin Graver and Justin Mello. But by the way, congrats to Justin Mello, just got his blue check mark. So apparently that's pretty big on Twitter, I've heard. So he brings in a lot of great interviews. So you kind of have a little bit of everything with all of our podcasts, and we don't want to cannibalize each other. Right. So we do all this. We also do halftime shows during the Titans games where we do Jonathan and I, Boren and I. For those out there, he's either Jonathan or Boren. I'm either Ryan or Watson. Just hang with us. That's who we're talking about. It's either Kyle or Castles or just Castles. So
yeah. If you look at my name, it's always Castles. That's what I've been for years now.
I don't think I knew it was Kyle for the longest time. kidding. But anyway, so that's, and we also do a roundtable after the games. And we try to put together some other podcasts. We talked about doing a gaming podcast at one point in time. We've toured with some stuff. I also do the Flex on Broadway, which is our fantasy football show, where a few of us get together and we talk fantasy football. It's a live stream every week, much like this. So I'm kind of used to being live on camera, and just remember not to pick my nose or say anything too bad on the camera, you know, that I can't say that. So, but that's kind of what Broadway does. And we're entering our second year. We actually just had our 1 year anniversary, which, you know, the other day, I think it was a couple weeks ago. I know we were working so hard, we missed it. But yeah, we're prepping for the preseason with the Titans. Got some stuff coming up. Jonathan and I are actually going to kick off our preseason show, Coach's Corner, either coming up this week or next week. I can't remember what we decided on. And then we'll go from there. So that's where we are with Broadway and what we discussed last time. And we're having a lot of fun. It's keeping me close. You know, you and I talked about this last time. It's keeping me close to the game. And that's something I've missed since I quit coaching, or since, well, I don't know if I quit or if I was asked to quit, but either way, it's given me something. You know, family's important, and I'm doing a lot of good things there, but you also kind of have to feed, you know, your creative soul as well.
Right.
A little bit. I mean, you have to still remember that you're a person as well. You spend 90% of the time with your kids. You want 10% to be something you love and care about, and this is kind of my home. So
yeah, I totally agree. This is something me and my wife have talked about, and it takes time. I'm not, you know, prepping for the show. And I understand, to all my listeners, all of our listeners, that sounds really egotistical. To all of our listeners, I know we make jokes about how we don't prep, and we don't prep the way, I promise you, if you go and you listen to Coach's Corner, Boren and Watson, they're on top of their stuff. They're prepping all the time. They have notes and notes and notes. They got notebooks just for a 30-minute show. I'm not kidding you.
Oh man, we do, especially when we're talking about game stuff. We want to break down the plays and we want to talk about stuff. But I'll be honest with you, there for a little bit, we kind of got into a habit. We got some feedback. We also partner with 440 Sports. Who helps produce some of our podcasts. Some of our guys go on their show as well. We got some feedback to just be a little more natural with each other. And we tried that towards the end of the season. And I found that the less notes I kept, the less robotic I sounded. Yeah. And that's the thing, when you're doing this podcast, you put a mic, you know, everyone, you know, if you look out there, probably your brother's kids, uncle's goldfish has a podcast. I mean, it's just everything's going on out there right now, but you got to find what makes you unique. You got to find what makes you sound natural, because you got to remember, you are wanting to do this for a reason. You got a voice, you got a message. And that's why I love Dad's Watching Sports, because it takes an angle and forgets that, yes, we love sports. We all are about that, but how are we raising our kids? How are we bringing our kids through our biases? Are we not doing that? You know, y'all had Cole on, and y'all talk through that about how he was an Auburn guy, and he's kind of like played that a little carefully and stuff. So, you know, that kind of stuff. So we try to sound a little more natural when we go, but we do have we press on our knowledge, you know, kind of a thing. But what we do is we do outline, and y'all do too. So I mean, it has to be prep. Otherwise, where do we go off the rails and we start talking about blue pants stories and stuff.
Well, I think we've kind of got our niche here with talking about family stuff and tying family stuff to sports. And because most of the people, I mean, let's just be really honest, kind of the podcast group that listens to podcasts are people our age, right? Dads looking for something that, and you're absolutely right. So we have a good time there. But look, you know as well as I do, some of the best times coaching, and this is guys, I promise you, I prep some of this. This is not prepped at all, but this is just me and Watson talking like I'd talk to him if I was sitting in the room with him.
Right.
But I would say, like, some of the best times coaching is when we were coaching together, right? We come off the field after the game, we sit down in that coach's office, and we turn the film on, right?
Right.
And the things that are said watching the film for the first time cold, man, yeah, that right there, I think, could be absolute gold in podcast land.
100%. Because you talk about, you're a little unfiltered because you're just de-stressing as well, right? Yeah. You're not only talking about you're not only talking about what's going on in front of you, but you're also, if it was a bad game, you're distressing a little bit. You're talking about how well someone did. Not that and I don't want to make this sound like you're talking a bunch of junk about the players. Even though you might be.
I mean, it depends. If your offensive line couldn't block a 4'6" nose guard all night, you're probably talking some nonsense.
Right, exactly. So that you kind of go through that, and that helps you get it out too, because you still want to deliver a good message when you get in front of that player, right? So you don't want to just, have some of that stuff built up. So it's good to bounce things off of each other. It's also really good to sit down in that film room and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Is this right? That's why you have to have this. You hear about these staffs that infight and don't do well, because I guarantee you they say, hey, you should try this, and it's not received well. Yeah. You and I both coached the offensive line together because we just worked well. We worked really well together, and we would bounce ideas off each other. We would go kind of talk and say, like, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's a drill I used to do. What do you think? Here's a drill you used to do. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So we had that relationship, which is why that offensive line worked, and why we were taking a bunch of 150-pound nothings and play offensive line with them.
Hey, look, I'm just going to say names because I don't care as much, but I'm going to say two names that you'll probably agree with: Greg Young and Jack Brandon.
Yes.
I mean, what, 5'8", 5'9", 160, 170 pounds apiece, and just workers, grinders. And so I know y'all are listening out there, Jack Brandon, Greg Young. We love, I know I can say this for Ryan. We love you, and we hope things are going good for you.
I think about Greg quite a bit, especially because I think Greg was one of my all-time favorite players that I had in college or high school. And because Greg just had this attitude of like, all right, you might beat me, but it's not going to be 2 times in a row. And he was crafty with stuff.
Yeah.
And he also would come ask questions. Hey, coach, I'm on this zone gap step. I'm getting beat. Do you have anything that I can use?
Yep.
And dive at his leg. Don't dive at his leg, but make something. If he's throwing you down, get low, get in his legs a little bit, and bear crawl. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
And he would take those and then apply them. So those are the kids you love to coach. Is that not only are they interested, but then they come back and they say and they ask the questions, but then they apply it. You see that they're trying their hardest. And the thing is that he got good enough and confident enough that he was in there pass blocking. I can't remember the Columbia defensive lineman. Not the Patriots kid, but the one that was next to him that kept bullrushing him. Anyway, he was in there like earlier in the season. He would have gotten blown back, but then you could see him use some of those tips and techniques to really thwart and control. So those are the good stuff you'd like to see.
Sure. Absolutely. Other good stuff you like to see. Let's get into the actual stuff that I told you we would talk about tonight. The things we enjoy are spending time with our family, especially going on vacations. And, last week we talked a lot about my vacation, and I was not in Turks and Caicos. I was actually in Panama City Beach. Mike, however, the reason he's not here is he's out in Bora Bora, those little huts on the water. He's got him a little hut in Bora Bora. He's sipping Mai Tais and pina coladas and whatever. Nanny's taking care of the kids. It's a good life for Michael Draper. But I noticed, I saw on Facebook, you just got back from a vacation. How was that?
I did. And just to kind of back up a little bit, we haven't taken, my family, my wife and my kids, we haven't taken a ton of vacations. And I feel bad for my kids because I think that we've taken my daughter. I say that, but we've taken my daughter to Disney. I think my 9-year-old's been to Disney 3 times already. And she's going a 4th time in September, but we hadn't taken like a beach trip in a while. My 4-year-old had never been to the beach. So we also, my little brother, I say little, he's 6'4", or 6'4.5". He's taller than I am. Thanks. Yeah. This is also a kid. I know I'm getting off track. You talk about being blessed with athletic talent. It's my brother. And I see my nephew, I'm like, Evan, he's left-handed, put a football in his hand, let him throw.
If he's left-handed, put a baseball in his hand, get him to throw an 89-mile-an-hour fastball, and he can be a pro reliever pitching every 3 days in low pressure for 15 years.
He's great at baseball too. And I'm trying to remember back if he's left or right-handed, because I'm like, I've had a freak out moment of like, oh, what is my nephew? But he plays hockey. He's up there in Minnesota. So we were very close to that side of my family. So we went up, actually, we were going to go in December, but the pandemic pushed everything back, and we weren't comfortable traveling with everything we've got. We've got it's one of those things where I don't care what you believe on that. I've got some concerns myself with some of the genetic stuff in my family for my wife and everything. So we just said better safe than sorry. That was all that was. So we pushed it back to June. We went to Minnesota in June and got to hang out with them. I'm telling you right now, summers in Minnesota are a vacation for 2 months straight, because they pack in all their outdoor sports into 2 months. They're on the lake every day, and pick a lake. There's like 4 million of them up there,
right?
End of 1,000 lakes or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So we had a blast up there. It was a great week. My kids were bawling, crying on the way back. They were like 2 more. Can we stay 2 more days? It hasn't been a full week yet. I was like, it was a full week. It was 7 days, but It was great. So, but we had also planned this beach trip in July, and I tried to spread them out bank account and have some relief for a few months. But that wasn't the case. So we ended up. So we had booked this trip to Gulf Shores, and I'm from down there originally. I went to high school down there, and I kind of know it. It was kind of nostalgic for me. And we went down there, and I had a blast. My 4-year-old going on the beach for the first time. The whole trip down, neither one of them wanted to get in the ocean. They were like sharks and all this. I'm like, how do you know about sharks? We've never watched anything with sharks, and I've never showed them Jaws. I'm not one of those sadistic parents who, let me scare my kids with horror movies or anything like that. So I'm like, where's this coming from? So, but we got down there, and it was great. We stayed at I can't remember the sea scraper or something, this big tall building down there where it was funny. We get on the elevator to go up, and I'm like, the guy's like, hey, what room? I was like, I'm not sure what floor. We just got here. Our room number is 2001. He goes, oh, you're in the penthouse. And I went, no. We don't roll like that. We don't buy penthouse level, places. That's not right. No, he goes, no. So here's how it does. So you're on the 20th floor and you're in the first. I was like, okay. So we went up, and I don't know why they call it a penthouse. They literally just could have been 20 because every room was the same as every.
Oh, okay.
We just had this, fantastic view.
Yeah.
And so I was the whole time I'm going in there, I was like, hey, did we purchase the wrong one? Just check the bank account.
I was about to say, did you pull it up on the mobile banking on the phone and go like, do I have any money left here?
Like deep breath. So, because I had budgeted out, like I was good. I knew like every meal down there is 120, it's just, it's beach prices with the seafood stuff. So we had a blast down there. We were actually staying next to my favorite restaurant down there, Sea and Suds, and introducing the kids, got the crab claws. I kind of like took another deep breath, and they told me it was $40 a pound for crab claws was the market price. And I was like, good grief. So getting used to those prices. We had some great seafood, had some great fun. But all the worry about the ocean and the sharks and all this, my 9-year-old did not want to leave. She discovered boogie boarding. We went across the street and did the boogie boarding, and we got her a boogie board, and she just was riding wave after wave, having a blast. The only problem was there were some bad storms that week, so it rained every day we were there. So we couldn't hang out on the beach the whole day, which is also why I don't look like a crab right now. I'm not red, and all burnt. But she just loved it. She would go out there. We took my 4-year-old out there, Caroline, and she would don't let go of me, but she went in the ocean as well. So that was fun. Yeah. My only regret was like I pushed Avery, my 9-year-old, a little too hard on one of the waves, and when she went right where it crests into the beach, she completely flipped over, and I lost sight for like 5 seconds. Not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but she gets up coughing. I'm like, okay, she just swallowed seawater. We're gonna have second hand water in her lungs. This is great. So I was panicking that whole night, but other than that, it was great. We were just ocean pool, and then when it rained, we'd go up to the room, and then we go out to dinner and wait two hours for a seat and then pay too much money for food.
Man, see, I can't wait for my kids to get to those ages where I can spend all day out, because we're out there, we're getting out as early as possible. So we're trying to hit the beach at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, because we know nap time's coming. Because I got a 1-year-old still, right? Like she'll turn 2 in December. And I got a 4-year-old who turns 5 in September, and he really needs naps, and he's getting to the point he doesn't take them anymore. So that makes it difficult. But so like we get beach in the morning, we do lunch and nap time in the room. And by the time they get up from nap, it's time to get ready and go have dinner, because we can't do a 2-hour wait. Right. So we're trying to get to some place for dinner between 4:30 and 5 to beat the rush.
Right.
You get out of there at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And it's like, well, the sun's going down. Do we want to go out to the beach? Is it a pool, or is it time to just put them to bed? Because dear God, I can't hear them talk anymore.
Well, yeah. And I tried to pack in as much as possible, because one of my biggest regrets is not the fact of what I did wrong with my kids. My biggest regret is always what I didn't do, or what I didn't have time for, or what I missed out on. Like not to get too sappy here, but my 9-year-old's getting to the point where she doesn't need us for bedtime anymore. She doesn't need us to come read her a story. She doesn't need us to come in there and lay down just for 5 minutes and talk about her day, that kind of stuff. She's like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to bed. She's like the best kid in the world. I don't know how we got so lucky. She just does all that stuff.
Yeah. I blame your wife.
Yeah, probably. So my 4-year-old's still there. So like you don't want to miss out on those times. So when we go to the beach, I had those same dilemmas of like, all right, it's bedtime. It's an hour past bedtime. We're just getting back. We want to go back out to the beach because we don't do this very often. So we did that a couple nights. We were a little more lenient on vacation.
Yeah.
There were kids I saw out, like I would sit on the balcony at night and just watch, listen, not watch because I couldn't see it, but to listen to the waves come in and just sit there and enjoy the smell. And I would just hear kids down at the kiddie pool at 11:30 at night, midnight, just running back and forth. I would look down the beach. I'd see all these little flashlights and these kids would come in. I'm like, where are your parents? Oh, they're right there with you. Okay.
As long as they're right there with you.
I was like, that's fine, whatever. And it's vacation time. So it's like, I'm not shaming anybody. If you're not down there very much. And if your kids stay up to midnight doing that stuff, hey, more power to you. And if you can deal with them in the morning, I know my kids need lots of sleep or they're just grumpy as all get out. But if you've got a good system, you've got a good system. So with vacation, we tried to extend that a little bit and let them have a little more fun at night than we normally do.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Well, we're going to take our first break. And when we come back, I promise we're actually going to talk about sports stuff. And we'll be right back.
Big news in the Dads Watching Sports podcasting world. You've heard us mention it on the show already. We are now part of the Off the Ball Podcast Network. We're super excited to be joining the team of great shows, hopefully adding a little dad flavor to the mix. You can check out Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network on all your social media sites. Just search Off the Ball Network. And while you're there, give them a like and a follow. You won't regret it.
All right, welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. I am Kyle Castles, joined by Ryan Watson from Coach's Corner on Broadway Media. Great podcast. Please check that out. All right, so Ryan, you mentioned you coached college football. I did for one season as well. So there's a big change in college athletics, and I'm curious just to get your take, and I'm going to kind of give this to you before we dive into the specifics. But the NIL, right? The name, image, and likeness, and the college students being able to make money off of that. What's your initial thought? Do what?
Is that what it stands for?
Name, image, and likeness. Look, I'm married to an attorney. These are things I have to know.
Exactly. It's very interesting, right? Because the running joke was like, hey, don't point fingers at this team that just got caught in recruiting violations, because guess what? You're doing it too. They're just your team's more creative at getting around it, or they've got buddies in the system. I mean, I'm an Alabama fan. Lord knows what Saban's been getting away with for years. I half joke, but I'm half saying there's a way. I guarantee they found a creative way for all those kids to have all those Dodge Challengers and all those cars from the dealership. It's maybe it's a $1 a month lease, but whatever. It's not really illegal, but so special deal, I guess. But anyway, that being said, now you can kind of have it a little more out in the open. It doesn't necessarily, it's not, I'm not looked at all the rules, but I'm sure that you can't do every benefit. Like there's some things that are probably off brand. And if you're a kid, you don't want your first sponsor to be some, risky venture or super political or whatever, so you got to be still careful with those things because you don't get attached to things. I was reading the other day about a topic we're actually probably going to bring up on the Coach's Corner is like what former players would have benefited the most of all this. And I saw someone say Tim Tebow, and my first thought was like, yeah, that dude would have made a mint. And then right under the no, Tebow wouldn't have made anything. And I'm like, are you kidding? In the South where he was, and that dude, and then arguably, I mean, I don't care what he did in the pros. I mean, he wasn't a quarterback. All this, I know he's trying with the Jaguars right now at tight end, but in college, that dude was the number one quarterback for a while, and you would debate some stuff for coming out of college. I mean, he was well liked, well done. He would have done quite well. And there's others would have done well. Vince Young probably would have done well. Reggie Bush would have done well and kept his high.
He already did well.
So, well, and that's the thing is some of that stuff goes away. So that, and Jonathan would probably have some better thoughts on that, about the NIL stuff. But yeah, it's definitely going to open up some different things. I know we'll get into some more specifics here about what it could affect and what it might, but it's definitely going to be an interesting time for college sports.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of doing well, we are now doing well because Boren finally decided, I guess, what the nice dinner at Jeff Ruby's, you dropped, I don't know, $400 or $500 on your steak. Is that where you've been? So I appreciate you coming in after that.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me here. It wouldn't be me if I wasn't making an entrance, and I just can't show up at the beginning with you slaps. I mean, come on.
Hey man, it's great that you're here. I loved having y'all on. I didn't say this at the beginning of the show. I was saving it for you because you're special.
Thank you.
But I loved having you guys on the last time, which I don't know, was a couple months ago, a few months ago, whenever it was. Great to have y'all back. Jonathan Boren, he's the co-host of Coach's Corner with Mr. Watson, and we're talking about just in general, name, image, and likeness, college football, these kids making money all of a sudden. We're gonna get into some specifics here in a minute. Just general, you got any thoughts? That I know you were hearing a lot of what Ryan was saying. Anything you want to add?
No, I think that, and apologies if this has been covered already, but I think just the idea of recruiting and how it's going to change the game, especially as you pair it up with how big the transfer portal has gotten. I think those two things over the last couple of years, I think it really changes the entire landscape of recruiting and how these schools go about it. So I don't want to get into too much specifics if I need to fill some more time here a little bit later, because I'll start preaching right now because I love I'm fascinated by how this is going to change things.
Oh, I knew you well enough to know this was going to be a topic for you. So let's just jump in. There was a report earlier this week. Bryce Young, right? The presumed starter at Alabama, Ryan, your new boy, right? Like, it's got to be your boy.
Oh, man. Till Ty Simpson apparently comes in, whatever that's about.
Apparently.
Yeah.
$1 million worth of endorsement deals already? Approaching. Okay. Just, Ryan, you're the Alabama guy. Tell me about what this does for, Bryce Young and the University of Alabama and whatever.
Well, Alabama specifically, they've had a lot of great press over the past 10 years. I don't know if you've seen what they've been able to do with all the national championships and playoff experience. But what I mean is your big boy schools are going to be able to have this exposure. So the players that are there are going to be the first ones to get the big deals, the biggest part of the pie. So what this means is you got a kid who's never taking a meaningful snap in his life or in college, yet, and all of a sudden he's getting all this. It's the first in the door. The first ones are always kind of gonna trail or blaze that trail a little bit, and you might see some stuff calm down a little more, hurry up and wait kind of stuff later on. Have some back end stuff like, hey, if you start and you do this, you win the Heisman, we'll give you that. But right now, who knows what all the deals he's getting and everything. But being at a powerhouse school that gets all the exposure that Alabama gets, and he's going to be the next quarterback, especially coming in line after what is arguably Alabama's. And it wasn't a high bar to shoot for, right? But in the college for their quarterback, you're coming out of a line of what's been arguably their best line of quarterbacks, starting with Jalen Hurts and what he was able to accomplish than Tua, and then even Mac Jones, who looked better than Tua at times. So I mean, you've got all that following up. So now Alabama, the quarterback QB1 position is sought after. You would think schools like Ohio State are going to benefit there. Clemson, Oklahoma. Those kind of schools, USC in the past would, with some of their quarterbacks, maybe not so much here recently, but Alabama's now there. The running backs probably would have benefited. So it's just, he's at a powerhouse school that's getting all these deals. So it doesn't really surprise me when I heard that number. I'm like, well, this is interesting for recruiting because now you don't necessarily have to do a whole lot of under the stuff or just say, hey, we're big Alabama. We're like, hey, we're Alabama. These are all the people that are going to be coming after you for their endorsements.
Well, I'm sorry, Boren, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but does that change anything for Alabama? Is Bryce Young now going to go to Alabama because he can make $1 million? I don't think it changes too much for the big guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's definitely a different aspect of that. I'm curious what happens with little guys now.
Yeah, the little guys is where it's going to change.
And that's where I was headed, and not so much a little guy. I mean, we're still talking an SEC school, but the day that I guess it was July 1, the day students could start making money off themselves. Ole Miss puts out they were waiting on it, right? They put out a video saying like, hey, this is what we can do for you. And it's, I think it had Eli Manning and DK Metcalf and AJ Brown and right. They're some big names that are recent and saying like, look, we can get you there. But there was an obvious like, hey, there's ways to make money right here, right now as well. So yeah, I think I guess this is the question, and maybe I know I didn't put it on the rundown. Maybe this is what I was trying to get to. Are we leveling the playing field here, or is the draw to Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, right? SC even, Is the draw there better because there's more? You got a better chance to be seen, therefore more money can come your way.
I would say that it actually pulls away from the big guys. I think your Bryce Youngs, your 5 stars that have been going to the Ohio States, the Clemsons, the Alabamas, that they're going to go there anyways. They were always going to go there. It doesn't change anything. But what if you are that 5-star who knows that there's a Bryce Young that's already there and is going to be there for the next couple of years? Are you still going to go to Alabama knowing you could go to, we'll say, Mississippi State, go to a D2 school, go to a MAC school where you can play from day one and be seen, maybe not on the same level. Maybe you're not making $1 million your first year, but you're making money that first year. And for some of these guys, that is where I think can be game changing. These guys that say, cool, yeah, I know I can get to a certain level, but I can go get paid right now, go play right now. And that's more important than it was previously, because it's not just make money at the next level, it's make money now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely true. Like those Tuesday and Wednesday night Toledo versus Akron games, now all of a sudden, like, hey, just so you know, they're nationally televised games. I'm going to be on TV on ESPN on Tuesday night 4 times this year. Do you want me to represent you?
Yeah, and do I care about the if I'm in the Pac-12 where it's the Pac-12 After Dark? Yeah, Pac-12 After Dark is really cool when I'm watching highlights on SportsCenter, but I ain't watching it live because that's late. So now am I kind of catering more towards where that crowd's going to be on that East Coast, those Central times? I don't know. That's where it starts to get fun. And like, yeah, I could go be at Reggie Bush at USC. I could go to Washington and be at these big time schools. But when only half the country's even watching me, I don't know.
Right.
You want to add to that, Ryan, or you just right?
No, he brought up a point.
He knows how to respond to me.
I mean, no, I agree with him because I hadn't really thought that far into it. But I was like, yeah, dadgummy's right, because you got a guy that previously I can get taken care of at Alabama, but I can ride the pine. My ultimate goal is to the NFL. If I can and these running backs too, like you looked at Alabama's, they've got 5 guys right there and that have been the number 1 or 2 or whatever running back in their class for 3 years in a row, and they've got 5 of them sitting there. In the future, all 5 of them going to sit there, or are they going to go somewhere where they can make the biggest splash, especially at a running back position that has a short shelf life as it is? Let's go get paid. I mean, the other thing that this may do is do kids, depending on what they can make first year in the NFL, they start comparing how much are we getting? Does it make us want to stay? All this kind of stuff. Yeah, they might have to take a pay cut. I mean, no, I have no clue.
I was just leaving you there.
I have no clue if they're taking a pay cut, if they're what. The basketball thing with all the FBI stuff that just went down with all the recruiting scandals and all this, that's the kind of stuff that are you going to see as many scandals and under because here's the thing. If you're not trying to cheat, I heard of what's the saying? If you're not trying to cheat, you're not trying hard enough to win. So people are still going to try to skirt things if there's rules in place, whatever. But like that was a great point that maybe some of these guys who would go and sit and wait 2 years because they know their ultimate goal is to get the NFL and they're going to do this. They're like, yo, if I can make 7 figures or close to it playing for, Tulane because of whatever, then I'm going to go do that for 4 years. And then I'll do in the NFL.
Yeah, but now you also combine this with the transfer portal and those guys that say, hey, I'm going to go to Alabama because I'm going to be that $1 million quarterback. But what if you're not? What if you're not that guy? Now it's super easy to transfer out, go to another small school. And so now you look at how you actually change the game on how these small schools recruit. I'm not going to waste time to go recruit that, 4th, 5th best player on a high school team to come to my school because what's going to happen? I'm going to develop him up for 3 years, and worst case scenario, then he's transferring to Alabama where he's going to go play. No, I'm going to go recruit that 4th or 5th string guy on Alabama who ain't playing. I'm going to bring him to my school, and he's still going to be the best in the MAC. So that's where the whole landscape, it's, I'm telling you, this is changing everything with those two things combined.
Well, and you're talking about changing everything. You hear this a lot at the pro level, and we're not there yet. I mean, Bryce Young making close, what'd you say, approaching $1 million? Is that the right word?
So it was approaching 3 weeks ago, so who knows what it is now.
Okay, so he's approaching $1 million. That's fine. What if this thing builds, right? And all of a sudden companies look up and go, we can actually make money off of these college players. And I know Nick Saban's, making godlike money, but all of a sudden you got a kid in the MAC that is lighting things up. That coach is making $1.5 million, and all of a sudden you got a college kid that, 20-year-old, let's say, can't even go out and legally drink, making
legally
$2-3 million. does the dynamic change there between the player and the coach? I mean, look, I'm a former coach, but y'all do the coach's corner. Y'all are selling yourselves as coaches. Talk to me about the player coach dynamic.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, here's what I think will happen. You'll get into these because I think especially at some of these smaller schools where you're at risk of, the players possibly making more than the coach. You're going to see that old Texas high school mentality where, I got these boosters, I got these guys that can come in and sponsor these players, but the person that's going to be there in 3-4 years is going to be that coach, and they're going to be in the coach's pocket. I think that's where it's going to start to play out. There's going to be some control mechanism of, cool, you want to play hard to get, we'll say it. I can take those things away from you. So I think that's got to be at least what I think will kind of play out there. But yeah, it's like when I was coaching, I remember trying to motivate some kid. Then like, hey man, you got to go a little bit extra. And I'm talking whenever we were all coaching at the same place. So there was a certain dynamic, a kid there, and you're telling this kid, you gotta push it. Like you can't just do this 1 hour each afternoon. And then at the end of the speech, he's getting in a 1-year-old Mercedes because his mom upgraded to the brand new Mercedes and handed that down to him. Like, well, cool. I mean, at some point it just don't matter. So it is going to be something they got to deal with.
Yeah.
Egos are a part of everything, and that's one thing I've learned since I've been kind of in the what I call the real world for corporate America. It's egos are everywhere, and you just have to learn how to navigate those, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to do those, and it's going to be no different for this. I mean, you're going to have your coaches; they're going to have a big problem with it. You're going to be you're going to have your coaches; they're going to see the bottom line. They're going to see that the more talent they bring in, the more successful they are, and the more attractive they are for places, regardless. So they need to look at it as, if my kid's making $3 million, I'm only making $2 million. Well, I'll be making $2 million, maybe I'll get a raise to $3 million, and I'll still be here. And I'm here for the longevity of it. And this just helps me in the future, makes me look better. Maybe I get to the NFL. So you don't want to start like detracting from that a little bit. So you kind of have to, I think what I'll see is coaches will be more swallowing their pride. You won't see a whole lot of media. Now I'm interested to see, like in the media, if you get Dabo Sweeney that says the wrong thing and the kids are like, wait, what'd you just say to me? Right, fine. I'll transfer Porter over here and go still make my $1 million, whatever. So that kind of stuff going on. But you're just going to see these egos, check them at the door. You're still going to have guys that are going to be hotheads and not get it, and those will be the ones that won't be long for this world. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting how quick coaches get fired now too with all this money going around.
Yeah. I am totally here for the hyper humble college football coach because that's a complete 180 dynamic. And please let it be Dabo Sweeney that gets humbled first.
Please.
Hey, you know what? I may come off biased here, but I do find it interesting. My father, Kenny Castles, y'all see the comment there. Third team offensive tackle, grinds every day, cannon fodder for the D-line, who gets nothing. Are they going to continue to just get nothing? Or is this the path to a stipend for players? Or now can the schools look up and say, no, if you're good enough, you can make money?
Yeah, I was going to ask this, is that like you take some of these smaller schools that don't have the exposure, is the NCAA going to step in and say, well, here's a stipend for your players to still make it attractive to come here? Are they going to be able to pass some of those things? But then what I would tell that young man is that you need to look for and say that, maybe if I'm the starting tackle, maybe I can get the deal with the local Chinese buffet that sponsors the entire offensive line, and we're saying we're taking our victory meals here. Or I'm serious. What was it? Wisconsin or it was a team. I can't remember who it was, but it came out with the entire offensive line was sponsored by a chain of buffets up there in the state.
I think it's Arkansas that got that, and then Miami got the entire team got sponsored by a gym down there in Miami. So
that gym owner is very smart.
Brilliant.
Yep. So that's the thing, is that you're going to have some stuff like that. It's going to be few and far between. But I think that the point is that that kid is also going to have to understand that third stringer is like, well, why would I get paid? I have to, if I want to, I've got to work my way up to that. It's the same thing. Like I can't expect, if I'm third string my entire time in my college career, I'm not going to the NFL either way. At some point in time, you accept your role, or you stop doing it. You either do the transfer portal thing and you say some of those kids are going to go. And then you've just got these super teams of just guys who are just eating each other. And then after a year, they go away. or it's those kind of things. I mean, I think your kids are either going to understand there's a reason why the quarterback who's the flashy thing or the running back or the star receiver are getting all the money. I'm the third string offensive lineman. I can't expect it. Now, what you will have to deal with is some of these smaller schools, that third string offensive lineman who was the starter for 4 years in high school now can't accept that he's the third string guy. Where's my money? Why can't I do this? And those are going to be the cancers and the things that coaches we're going to have to watch for.
But those dudes were the cancers either way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What's their other option?
Money gets involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what we're seeing, though, is because you have certain players that are donating everything they get to charity. You have other teams that are just putting it into a pool and then splitting it evenly. You have other guys, Bryce Youngs, that are selfish guys that just take it all for themselves. I mean, so when you look at that, there's everybody's just kind of figuring it out, because nobody knows. It just kind of got thrown on you, and then one day, all of a sudden, everybody said, "Oh crap, we can make money." Some guys had their own personal brands. So over the next 2 to 3 years, they'll fall into some sort of norm, because that's just what football does. It's a copycat league, copycat sport. When one team's successful with the model, every team's going to start to mimic it, because you don't want to be the outlier, right? You don't want to be the team that decided, "Oh no, we're not going to do that. Sorry, you're just going to deal with it." So I'm not sure which route they go, but that's where it's going.
Wonderful. Your coach says, "No, you can't make money here." Well, good luck with your program, sir.
Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Well, speaking of programs that need luck, let's talk Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, that's kind of the big thing in college sports right now, right?
Right.
Oklahoma and Texas are flirting with the SEC. They're talking to the SEC. They're negotiating with the SEC. Let's, just for the sake of this conversation, let's pretend that the SEC, Texas and Oklahoma all get married, and all of a sudden the SEC expands by 2 teams. Start with the Big 12. Can they survive? Or are we at a Power 4?
You may not be at a Power 4 yet, but you're going to be there soon enough. I mean, the other teams remaining there, then it's what, Baylor and Oklahoma State, maybe TCU in an up year kind of thing, where they're. But I mean, that's your teams. Like whether by name alone, you're already at a Power 4, right? I mean, that's how it's going to end up playing out. But I think that's where you're going to start picking up the phone, and teams are going to start calling the Pac-12, calling the Big 10, looking for homes. But rumors are SEC ain't only been talking to Oklahoma and Texas. So
what rumor have you heard? Are you talking about the ACC, or are you talking about other teams the SEC?
Yeah.
I missed something. You got to enlighten me, guys. This is brand new to me too.
Yeah, apparently they've been talking to the Ohio States of the world. They're going for the super conference. Everybody plays in the SEC and taking on the NCAA.
Well, the big names I read was Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, and Clemson. So they're literally going at the other 2 conferences and said, "Who you best? We're getting them in here. We're going to be the first super conference. Come mess with us. We're going to get all the money. We're going to get all the TV deals, all that good stuff." It's going to be nuts if that happens. And then you're going to have this whole world where you either expand the regular season so you can play all your teams in your conference, or you have to make sure you have a conference championship where you can start to play most of the conference, and then you have to go to a national playoff with those groups, right? At least to try to figure this out so you can get everybody in, or not everybody, but most of the teams that deserve to be there. I don't know what it expands to. That's a whole different conversation. But then these other smaller conferences that get left out, do they have their own championship now, that they do their own playoffs, because they'll have no shot getting in the super playoffs?
Oh, that is okay. Wow. Like, that blows up my second question here on how do you structure the SEC if OU and Texas move. And I figured this out. I got a 4 division, 4-team layout. And now all of a sudden, if you're talking about adding in more teams, I mean, this is starting to look like minor league NFL if these are the teams you're putting out.
Yeah, that's what it'll be.
They just need to go full and adopt like the Premier League model for soccer in Europe. We've got relegation. Let's just bring the Texans down to college football. We'll promote Alabama and Ohio State. They are now in the AFC South, and let's just go with it.
Yeah. No, see, this is where people lose me. I'm all for relegation if you're going to bring down, take Vandy out, and you're going to pull somebody else in, and all of them are college teams. I'm with you. but you can't tell me a team full of pro players and a team with quite a few pro
You're
players.
preaching to the choir.
I was 100% being hyperbolic.
Okay,
there,
I wanted to make sure.
No. You can completely roast me if you ever think I'm serious on that, because that is one of the most asinine things that constantly comes up. Could Alabama beat the Jaguars? No, they couldn't.
No,
a team of 53 grown-ass men? No, they couldn't.
No, it's not going to happen. That is a team full of pro players versus a team that has quite a few pro players. Yeah. Future pro players, not pro players now.
Yeah, Jacksonville's got a lot of busts, but they were busts because they were the best players in college football.
Exactly. Okay, so forget the structure of the SEC if we had two. If we go, and I actually had this mentioned somewhere else, and I don't even know where I put it, but we're really looking at, and tell me if I'm wrong, the death of the NCAA, right? Isn't that where we're headed?
I mean, I think that's inevitably where they're going. And there's been, I think it was the SEC commissioner that said that the NCAA was not equipped to govern this with where they're at. So I think it may be a slow death. Like, they'll fight. Obviously, it's been their cash cow. I mean, they literally have a South Park episode about how much of a joke of an organization they are. But I think it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, if you're printing money for what you had going, you'll fight tooth and nail to keep it.
Oh, absolutely. And if the SEC, and I think you have to change the name, and it has to become like college football or college athletics, right? But you grab the Ohio State, the Michigan, the Florida State, the Clemson, Miami. I'm sorry, my kids are yelling. I hope y'all can't hear that.
Everyone has kids. Everyone should understand. At least I hope.
The Texas, the Oklahoma. If you grab all of these schools, and if this is the case, they're not done. Right? If they're already talking Michigan and Ohio State, like Penn State's another big school that if you're going to have the power schools, I feel like that's one you got to bring in. Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and you didn't mention Miami. Miami's one I think you got to pull in. They're going to go west. They're going to grab SC at some point, right?
Yeah, follow the money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, Texas has not been all that, but Texas has more money than God. And there's a reason you want Texas. I mean, the one that floats out there is, if you could ever convince them, is Notre Dame. Well, and what do you do with that one? Because they are the most proud, because you talk about printing money. I mean, there's a reason they won't join a conference. No, we got our NBC deal. We're good. We are golden.
Yeah, but you have these super conferences now that have all the teams in like 3 conferences or whatever it shakes out. You've got a West, you've got a Central, and you've got an East, and that's that former SEC, ACC, and the Big Ten, and then you've got whatever else. The Notre Dame wants to stick that their flag in the mud and be like, all right, we're not joining a conference. All right, well, good luck ever making the playoffs or ever getting any good deals anywhere, because it's all going to these 3 conferences.
If you take away what we as fans look at as that is the real national championship, right? Like, forgive me, but I compare this to like wrestling, right? Like, if you are the world champion, but you're in some company nobody's ever heard of, right? But you're their world champion, does it matter? No, it matters if you are the WWE world champion. Right. So you can go be the champion of the MAC and the Big East and whatever. Congratulations. But the one that we all care about is that championship. Notre Dame's going to want a piece of that. And if they got to be part of the conference.
You're getting into that argument of what matters most. And there has not been a definitive answer to this question. And that is making money or winning. Yeah. And typically it's the making money that ends up winning, because coaches, athletic directors, they can say what they want. But when you get up to those university presidents and those board of directors, a little bit of a different answer there.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I have really, really enjoyed this conversation. I kind of knew I would, but we got to take another break. We're going to come back. We're going to dive into the Olympics a little bit, and then I'm going to kind of kick off y'all's season, season 2 or season 3 of Coach's Corner, and we're going to talk a little bit of NFL. 2-ish, 3-ish. Okay.
He's an offensive line guy. Counting is
whoa. No, hang on. Before I go to this break, I gotta talk. as offensive linemen, we have to defensive linemen. I'm just going to say this, defensive end coach, defensive linemen, see ball, get ball, hit ball, right? That's easy. We got to think because y'all move everywhere and we got to figure out how to block you on the fly.
Yeah,
and
that's why you have a start center, right? But neither of you played center. So
I played some center. I played some center. I can't help it that I'm tall and had to get moved out wide a little bit.
Take your break.
All right, we're going to break. When we come back, Olympics and NFL season preview.
Coming up next week on Dad's Watching Sports, it is episode 75, and we are talking all things SEC football. SEC Media Days has happened, and we're going to recap that with some people that covered the event and talk all things as we preview the Southeastern Conference 2021-2022 college football season. That and much more next week on Dad's Watching Sports. We'll see you then.
All right, you just heard it on that break. We have, and quite frankly, Michael has not shared with me. Peek behind the curtain. Mike, I tell y'all this all the time, and I'm not lying. I am the talent. I don't do the work. I just show up. I have the pretty face. I have the voice. I know everything because I played college football. I don't do the work. He does all the work, and I know he told me some feelers. I don't know. I don't want to say names because I don't know anything that was finalized, but we got some names coming in next week to talk about the SEC Media Day. So make sure you join us for that next week. Download us, rate us, review us, subscribe to us, all that good stuff. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over everything. I don't run any of it because, again, guys, I'm the talent. I'm running this for the first time ever, and I hope I'm doing a halfway decent job. I'm sure Mike will end up calling me or texting me when he gets back from Bora Bora. Boren, you weren't here for this. He's in Bora Bora with his wife. Kids stayed home. They're just hanging out in the little hut on the
vacation.
Yeah, it's a real vacation. Right.
In reality, they're just taking the time to actually sleep.
Yeah, I'm not lying. Like, this was his comment earlier in the show. Beach without kids. I'm telling you, it's a good life if you're Michael Draper. But guys, Summer Olympics, right? The Olympics, the 2020 Olympics have started now in 2021. I don't know if y'all are big Olympic guys. We've never had that conversation. I tend to like the Olympics, especially certain things. But it's cool. The opening ceremonies are always fun because you get to see all the countries and the athletes and all that good stuff. So I just thought it'd be cool. Like, what are your top 3 Summer Olympic sports to watch? And Boren, we'll start with you. Let's give all 3, but let's go 3 to 1 and kind of build up to your number 1.
Oh man. Okay. Let's go with, can I just say track and field? Can I just say that as a whole?
Yeah. Like, if you want to watch people run around a track, good for you.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think you like NASCAR, so that's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
No, I went with the stereotype there. The Mississippi,
right? He's from Mississippi, and
wrestling. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
So let's go track and field. Number 2, I become very passionate about what is it like volleyball, and not like in a creepy like beach volleyball thing, but like actually
I got it. I got it. Beach volleyball, you like? Yeah, I got it. The bikinis and whatever. Yeah.
That's fine. Just the men's only, but I don't watch the
that
women's.
Says a lot.
It's like for some reason things are clicking for you right now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have my wife come down here real quick just to default some stereotypes back to normal here.
Well, just so everybody knows, Boren is not an attractive man. So it was his mind that got him a wife in general.
It's true. It is true. And then number 1 is like swimming. I enjoy the swimming, like the actual, because every swim it's going to be like within a tenth of a second of somebody winning gold kind of thing. I actually didn't enjoy the Michael Phelps stuff as much because he's just so dominant that it's like takes the excitement out of it. But
which is why you hate Alabama. Right, because they're so dominant, your Buckeyes can't win a national title. Was that?
Yeah, you know what? I think we have a few more than you do, so I think I'm okay.
We got our first one this year, baby.
Not in football.
Baseball's king.
Is this a baseball podcast now?
Let him have it. We need to move on. Just let him have this win.
Anything you're competing with Vandy against, is it really a sport worth celebrating?
I can't whistle. I was about to try to whistle.
Look. Mississippi State, this is completely off topic, but I hate you now. Mississippi State has a very strong tradition of baseball. We had Thunder and Lightning in the 80s with Rafael Palmeiro and Will Clark. We've been close. We've been to Omaha a ton of times. We got a national championship, and you're not going to make me feel bad about it.
I will say, that was not even like they snuck a national championship out. They won that in style. There was zero doubt. They won a national championship.
It was crazy. My wife came down. I think it was like 6th or 7th inning, and I think we were up 6 or 7-0 at that point. And she was like, "Can we talk now?" I was like, "No, not now."
Question for you.
Go ahead.
So, which one was better for you, the Cubs World Series or the Mississippi State National Championship?
Oh, Cubs World Series.
Okay.
Like,
just making sure where we were.
But it is crazy for me because I think I've said this on the show. I'm a Mississippi State fan. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan. I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. Growing up, you're like, look, if we can just get a winning record, get into the postseason, whatever that is in the sport, right, I'm happy. We don't have to win anything in the postseason, just get there. And I've seen all three win a national championship in something, right? Or a world championship.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Right. I've seen them all win at the highest level. So that's pretty amazing. But winning at highest levels for a lot of athletes, that's the Summer Olympics. Ryan, your top
bring
three.
us back.
Yeah.
Look, that's right there. That's well done, sir. So I'm definitely, I enjoy the Summer Olympics. I think I'm a little more into the Winter Olympics, just because it's always fascinating me. I love hockey. Mm-hmm. I've gotten into soccer the last couple of years, thanks to my co-host on the Coach's Corner, Jonathan, really explaining the rules, and it's a beautiful game. And I love watching anytime I can see the any soccer played Olympic wise. I used to love watching the basketball, but it got boring. Well, it's actually got some intrigue this year, so maybe I'll go back and watch a couple games because the United States can't seem to beat anybody. Yeah. But I love anything track and field, and especially like if I can catch any of the shot putting, the discus, the javelin, because that's what I did on the track team. And I ran a big man 4x1 relay. We did do that. It was against other fat guys. So it's nothing special. But I've always enjoyed track and field, just kind of watching it. But I like just catching whatever sport is currently on, seeing if I can figure out, okay, what makes that a good score? Why did they just mess up? And see if I can, and then I'll go Google and see where I was wrong, because I don't really understand a whole lot of it. But I just like watching if I can catch it. But since I've, had kids, finding time to watch the Olympics isn't really on the docket. Finding time to watch just about anything isn't on the docket anymore.
Oh. I need to change. You can insert it anywhere in the top three for me, but I should have mentioned it. The weightlifting is spectacular. Like those dudes, especially, generally ends up being some Chinese dude at 114 pounds that can throw up 15 times his body weight that wins it. And it's just fascinating to me.
No, the guy won gold because he promised his wife, who died in a car accident. That kind of got me a little bit this year. Yeah, that's kind of a cool story.
Yeah. So my 3-1, and I think this makes, y'all know me, so this is going to make sense to y'all, but I start with boxing and then I go to wrestling, right? Like I love contact sports. I love the idea of I want to be able to physically dominate the person across from me. And to me, those two, you do it. You know what I mean? And then for me, I love watching the basketball. Even when the United States was just crushing people, because, I was coming of age with the Dream Team in 92, and that is the greatest collection of basketball talent on any team ever in the history of ever. And so it worked out well for me. So I love watching the basketball. I actually had on here to talk about, and I took it out before I sent it to y'all, but I was going to ask about, does the United States basketball team ever get back to just dominating people? But you brought that up, Ryan, so I'm just going to give you my thought there. I think we do. I just think it's going to take the United States not winning a medal, and then all of a sudden all those NBA players that opt out are like, you know what, we got to make sure everybody understands, this is still the country for basketball. Yes?
I agree. It's going to take a losing to take it seriously, because I think now it's starting to, some of these players are looking at the All-Star games. Why do I want to risk it? I've got all this stuff going on, and maybe there's a little more pride there. Maybe you still don't get it. And we're kind of in a transition in the NBA as well.
That's true.
All these old stars that have been there are going out, like the Whiskeys, the Wades. LeBron, as great as he's been, is on the down part of his career. Yeah. He's still great, but he's not the LeBron he was 5 years ago. for sure.
Right.
So you got this collection of young talent that hasn't quite figured out. They're still finding their way in the NBA. Jason Tatum's, the Devin Bookers, all those, and they're not mixing with some of these veterans probably on the Olympic team. I'm not sure, but they're definitely missing some spark there and maybe a go-to. But I would say any team that has like a Kevin Durant on it, especially because Kevin Durant is in his prime right now, would be able to hang 20, win by 20 on any team, but that's just not happening. So.
Right.
Can I just point out real quick, and then I'll add on here that while talking about the American basketball team, his first example of players was Dirk Nowitzki.
Hey, I was letting it go.
The NBA's going out, so you've got all these older players. Goes, you have to transition. So I was trying to relate. You know what?
Your point was valid because I think when you look at all the stars, all of them have won before. It doesn't have that same appeal, but yeah, it's cyclical, right? Like you have to get they have to get pissed off, then they'll come back with a vengeance in 2024, whenever it is. They'll come back, they'll sweep all their way to gold. But I think one other thing that affects us a ton is because of COVID, and every athlete was impacted by COVID for these Olympic Games, but the basketball players, especially because their professional seasons, for a lot of them, they just ended. So when you look at that, and then the NBA has already said that next season is going to start on time. So by the time this is over, you would have, if you're Devin Booker going into this, you just played an NBA championship. You're going to go through an entire Olympics, and then preseason is going to start back to back. You get no rest on that. Yeah. So because of the COVID delays in the NBA season, the delays on the Olympics, and then trying to get back to normal, it's even more amplified on them than it is other athletes out there. So
yeah, that's a really good point. And Boren, that's why we bring you on. You make a lot of good points. And the preseason matters, though, right? Like that's where you kind of fine tune everything. So that's what I want to do to end this show is give you your preseason. All right. I don't really care where y'all take this, but we got training camp starting, I believe, this week in the NFL. And so I got like 5 different kind of like storylines to follow this year. And I'm just curious, what are you expecting from the NFL season? If y'all want to stick to the Titans because that's your show, that's fine. If you want to go league whole, that's fine too.
Ryan, you want to go first?
No, go ahead, bud.
So from a Titans perspective, I only care about one thing and one thing only: no injuries. I don't care about anything else. They could come out and just look absolutely terrible. I just want to see this team that they've assembled on the offensive side. I want to see Julio and AJ Brown actually out there together. Like, that's it. I don't care about anything else. And if they get beat and they're a terrible team, but they stay healthy, cool. At least they tried. That's all I really care about. From the NFL perspective, is this the year that Tom Brady actually, falls off the wagon? That defense, though, still has a ton of talent. They still got a ton of talent around him. And he did not play great going down the stretch. So I think you're already seeing him decline. What happens in Green Bay? I mean, is Aaron Rodgers going to retire this week? Like everybody's kind of rumoring that's what's going to happen. I think even if he does retire, you could see him back in another uniform next year. He'll sit out this season maybe, but I think it's the Chiefs until it's not the Chiefs, even though they lost last year. The collection of young talent that they have there, it's a safe bet. If you're taking one team or in the field, that's the team that you're going to pick, and for the foreseeable future, which is kind of depressing if you cover or root for a team that is not the Chiefs. It's going to be that team. The only other team that I'm excited to watch, because I think he's going to be a stud, is going to be the Chargers, because I think Justin Herbert is a dude. Yeah. And I think he has the potential to do some Mahomes-like things, and he's bigger and faster, which could be scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get no credit for this, but I called Justin Herbert's breakout last year on the flex. They were like, who's your candidates? And I said, Justin Herbert's got the best. I thought Burrow was going to do his thing, but we were talking about who's the next best. And I said, Herbert, like, Herbert's not going to. I was like, whatever, Tyrod's going to get hurt, or they're going to inject his lung and try to get him out of there, whatever happened out there. And he's going to get a shot. And I'm telling y'all, with that offense they've got around him, he's going to make some noise. And kid's talented. So, yeah, I agree with that there. But for the Titans myself, I'm going to be watching specifically the offensive line. And not that the offensive line was bad last year at all, but they were very patchwork. They went through 3 left tackles, if not more. I'm missing a guy who got a body that got thrown in there and then got chopped up. But they went through 3 guys. They're getting their all-pro left tackle back and Taylor Lewan coming back. So you think if you're adding him back to your offensive line, it's going to be automatically better, right? They went out and drafted a right tackle. They also signed a couple guys. So we'll see what happens with the right tackle spot. But interior guard to guard, that was one of the better offensive line combinations in the NFL last year, between Saffold, Jones, and Nate Davis. They're just maulers in there. And I really like how Nate Davis is coming along in his career. So I'll see if they can take the next step. Keith Carter's done a fantastic job with them. The thing how are they going to pair that? And then what are they doing at tight end? They just let John O. Smith walk after coming off Delaney Walker to then John O. Smith. What are they going to do there? Is it Ferks are going to be the full-time guy? Are they going to try to platoon some guys depending on what they want to do and risk being predictable? Who knows? And then I'll back it up even one, now it's no excuses for Tannehill. He's been great after Miami. He's been fantastic. He's still massively underrated. The one knock, though, and Jonathan's pointed this out a bunch of times, is that he, either due to game plan or something in himself, shrinks in those big moments in those playoff games. He's not as flashy. He still has some great throws. He still gets the job done. That's all that's being asked of him is whatever. So now that he's got A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and Derrick Henry back there, could be a very potent offense. Whatever the defense is going to look like, the offense should be good. So we'll see if Tannehill can have those good seasons he's had and still have those couple games, not avoid those couple bad games a year that he still has to have. So that's one looking at Titans. He mentioned everything I'm looking forward to around the rest of the league. What are the Saints going to do at quarterback? That's something I'm going to be watching because that's going to be very interesting. You had this Drew Brees for so long, and now he's not there. What do you do? Is it a Taysom Hill show? Are you going to try to Jameis Winston and all his weird workouts and eating W's and whatever he's going to do? He does have good eyesight now, so we'll see what happens. Dak Prescott coming back. So a lot of good things. These young quarterbacks around the league. Justin Herbert, I think he will. Continuing that on. What's Trevor Lawrence going to look like? Hot take, and I'm going to get beat up for this. I don't think he's going to be that great. I've never been real high on Trevor Lawrence, as Jonathan has given me crap about over the past couple of years. So we'll see if I'm wrong in that. But, yeah, there's a lot of good quarterback storylines out there to watch and just see what the NFL looks like as they continue to progress into this passing game.
Hey, I'll say this real quick, just my last prediction here, just so I can put it out there and give you an opportunity. Oh, you guys are synchronized drinking. That's cute. The one thing I will say, and this is an opportunity for you guys to roast me, but I will also say I was adamant coming out that Dwayne Haskins was going to be a bust. He was going to be terrible. And as long as Nagy doesn't get in the way, Justin Fields will be your rookie of the year.
Well, I don't think it's a real hot take to say that Dwayne Haskins is going to be terrible. I think we all saw that one coming. Justin Fields is not going to be your rookie of the year. In fact, you're both wrong there. Trevor Lawrence is the dude. He is the real deal. He is a Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, can't miss prospect. He's that good. No.
That's a little hyperbolic there.
I will let you argue with me, Mr. Watson. I see you over there biting your tongue.
Look, he looks the part, right? And Jonathan's argument about it is like, well, he's got something you can't teach. He's got the size. He's got look. He's got great mechanics. Yeah, he looks the part. I'm just telling you, when I see game situations, I saw the majority of the time where these talented receivers were saving him because he's not that accurate. He's not accurate downfield. Not at all. And this day in the NFL, you have to be accurate downfield. You have to be accurate in the intermediate. And I just don't think he is that level of. And he thinks he's a runner and he is athletic, but I see some injuries in his future. I just it's too unpredictable for me. I think Justin Fields is, like Jonathan's saying, I think he's the closest to a sure bet in this crew because he's got. I've seen him injured. I've seen him break 17 ribs, three discs, ruptured in his spine or whatever's going on with that kid, cracking his sternum, and still coming out with one leg and competing in a national championship game and still being able to. So I know the kid's tough. He's got great mechanics. He's got a laser arm and he reads very well. So I think that Justin Fields to me is a safe bet. And I think things have been too easy for Trevor Lawrence, and I think that's going to be a wake-up call for him in the NFL, and I don't think he's going to respond because it's just been too easy for him his whole life. And that's my gut instinct, and from what I've seen on film, watching him play.
I'm not as low on Lawrence as Ryan is. I think he is a very good prospect. One of the main reasons I think Lawrence will be fine this year. I don't think he'll be a bust, and I do not think he's Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is that's a different level dude. But I will say the biggest difference there is Justin Fields, he's a runner. He has the ability to run. Now, I will also say, having watched him, people that label him as a runner, like as an Ohio State fan, I would have loved if he ran more because he could have run for days. He sat in the pocket and was patient, which you kind of like from a quarterback development perspective. But when you're looking at how that translates to the next level, those rookie guys that can run, that put up some numbers there, and then you add in the size of the market of Jacksonville compared to Chicago. I mean, the other one there, I mean, Zach Wilson could do some things because he's going to be a dude that gets to go from day one, but I am not sold on him as an NFL quarterback. And so, but he's going to have the market to get right. If you do, if you're a B-level player in New York, nobody's ever going to shut up about you.
Yeah. Now, Zach Wilson's an interesting cat. I have seen some film on him where he makes some, what they call off-platform throws, right? And his accuracy downfield on those throws is just, it is unbelievable where he's able to place a ball as he's falling to his left or right. So I think there's a lot of talent there. I don't know if it's going to translate to the NFL. And here's the thing. In my opinion, they're all three of them, right? Lawrence, Fields, and the one we were just talking about. I've gone blank on his name.
Wilson.
Thank you, Zach Wilson. They all have talent.
What about Trey Lance? What about Mac Jones?
What about Trey Lance? Mac Jones is going to be fine. Like, Mac Jones is a Tom Brady with a little bit less of an arm. I think Belichick can find a way, and the OC McDaniels can find a way to fit him in, and he will be just fine.
Yeah.
Is he going to be an all-world seven-time Super Bowl winning quarterback like Brady? No. But he's going to be fine up there. You're going to be okay. I think he sits behind Cam this year, honestly.
Agreed.
And I'll be honest, y'all hit basically everything I had written down. Like, the big question, can Brady do it again? I have hated Brady for so long, but at this point, I'm looking up and going like, no, that's the GOAT. And
it's so pointless to hate. And I'm not saying you're wrong for hating because I know it gets tired, but when you have these runs that athletes go on, well, LeBron's been doing, what Tom Brady's been doing, you don't get to see this very much. So at some point in time, you have to look in and say, I'm witnessing something I may not ever see in my generation ever again. I'm going to appreciate this a lot more in the future, in the future when it's old hat and all I've got is highlights. Why not enjoy it now when you can watch it live? That kind of stuff. I don't get it. For me personally, I can understand if other people want to, but this is great stuff that we're not going to see very often. I mean, Mac Jones isn't going to do this just because it's improbable. I don't care if he's just as good as Brady and has all the others. It just everything has to go right for this run to go isn't going to happen again for a while, if at all.
Yeah. He's the most talented manager of a Denny's I've ever seen.
My other one was, can Mahomes actually overcome Brady? I made a big deal going into this last Super Bowl. And again, this is that pro wrestling idea in me. Like, is this the passing of the torch? Is this Hogan losing to Warrior at WrestleMania and passing the torch? Like, you're going to carry the banner now. And this is now the new banner waver of the NFL and Mahomes, and it didn't come to pass. Like, can he finally overcome Brady? I think that's a big thing. You got Saints and the Packers replacing Hall of Fame quarterbacks. As far as I know, Aaron Rodgers has not reported or will not report.
He's done. I don't know. Good grief.
I think he pulls he's essentially doing what Brett Favre did. Brett wanted out. He retired. He came back and played for the Vikings. Does Aaron Rodgers come back and play for the Vikings and the Jets and call it a career? Like, who knows, right? I think one interesting thing is, the Browns, like, we said for so long, like, is this the year and we're starting to see them gain traction. Like, can they sustain it? Because that AFC North is tough. I mean, the Ravens are going to be good with Lamar. I can't expect the Steelers to be as bad as they were, right? And then you got the Browns there. You got some good football to be played there in the AFC North. And then Justin Herbert, Boren, I'm right there with you on that bandwagon. He's impressive. I love watching that kid.
Yeah, you talk about the AFC North, and I'll say the AFC North is tough, but I also think it's open and there for the taking. I think that the Ravens, I think you've seen what Lamar is, and he can be electric, but I'm not sure. He's kind of getting close to that, he's getting close to that Michael Vick kind of category. He has an offense that has been built around him more than Atlanta was able to do with Michael Vick, but he has some limitations as a passer, which is ultimately going to limit what you can do. Then you have Pittsburgh, where Big Ben is apparently he's eating salads instead of cheeseburgers now or whatnot. But like Father Time's undefeated, right? So that's going to be there. I mean, I like what Cincinnati's doing. They got a great wide receiver core. If Burrow can be healthy, I think they're building in the right direction. But yeah, I think Cleveland, man, they have talent there. I mean, ultimately, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks on all of those teams. Cleveland has talent on the defensive side. I mean, they're going to be hoping that Garrett and Clowney can wreak some havoc there on the edge there in Cleveland. And I mean, that's the most advantageous position outside of playing alongside peak J.J. Watt that Clowney has ever been in. He's going to be an afterthought because Garrett's a freak. So I think it's tough. But yeah, I think it's open. None of those teams winning, including the Bengals, none of those teams winning that division would surprise me.
Well, if you notice, I left the Bengals out of that because I think they're at least a year away. I think they need to shore up the offensive line. I think they got some holes on defense. But you're right. I mean, they got the receivers, going out and getting Jamar Chase this year. They got the quarterback. I like Joe Mixon running the ball. What's his name? The tackle, Jonah Williams.
Jonah Williams. Yep.
He's coming back this year, as far as I know. That helps, but I think that offensive line needs another piece or two. The defense is probably a few pieces away. So I think they're a year or two away, and that's about the time you should see the Steelers start to fall off because Ben's going to have to retire. I mean, look, Ben came in with Eli and Phillip Rivers, and he's the only one left standing now, right?
Yep.
I think that's where you see the Bengals kind of make their jump. I did want to come back, and I know we're running long. Guys, you just get extra time. You're welcome. I wanted to come back because you mentioned something about the tight end position for the Titans. I forget who they got as their new OC, and I know y'all know this. But do they start looking at more like 10 personnel? Forgive me, listeners. 4 wide receivers and a running back to open that box more. Right.
So I don't think I think it'll be 11 personnel. So I think you'll still have that tight end, but for all intents and purposes, it's 10 personnel because Anthony Ferkser is a big wide receiver. I mean, he is not an inline blocker, and that's their number 1 tight end. Jeff Swaim is going to be your inline guy. And I mean, I'm hoping you got to expect with them bringing in Josh Reynolds, them having Julio, A.J. Brown, and Ferkser, they're going to spread it out a little bit more than they did previously. The personnel is just not the same. Jonnu Smith, maybe you didn't get everything out of him that you thought you could have as a receiver, but his versatility of you could line him up anywhere, including in the backfield, and give him a couple handoffs, that's not something you have right now. So I do think whether it's 10 or 11 personnel, you are going to see them spread it out a little bit more. And I think you have to because you kind of saw it in the Ravens game. The Ravens really came in and said, hey, we will take away Derrick Henry. We'll sell out to do that. And the problem is, you guys know, you go into these bunch formations, like, yeah, it's awesome. You can try and bully some guys, but you're bringing more dudes to the party too. You're bringing the extra defenders into those boxes. So you can have 8 guys in the box. And people can say, yeah, you're stacking the box against Derrick Henry. Well, no, you're just matching up against how the offense is there. So spread them out and give your athletes areas to play.
And that forces them then, like, I got 4 wide out here, whether it's 3-by-1 or 2-by-2, I got 3 wide out here. Do you really want to drop that safety down and show me a 1-high look? And we don't do this on my show because Mike is not Mike is not a football coach. So listeners, I apologize, but you got 3 football coaches here literally having a conversation like coaches would. So I understand that got deep into the weeds, but Ryan, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I love it because I've been looking for. I said about Derrick Henry coming out of college that this is a guy you're worried about him running. Can he be a spread back? And the thing is, he hasn't been the best receiver. He's not a natural receiver. He's been working on it, so we'll see if that comes into play. So I'm not saying I want him to be a spread back and be able to catch passes. If he does anything there, it's a bonus. It's icing on the cake, as my father-in-law says. But if you spread him out as an offensive lineman, those stunts are a little easier to see where they're coming from. They can't just bunch up and attack you with all these twists and all this stuff. So it's a little easier to kind of plan out. Plus, with Derrick Henry's speed, and he's running against that spread stuff, the lanes get bigger. and he could really wreak some havoc. Because you said that, Derrick Henry gets better the farther down the field he gets on a run. So now you're talking about these empty boxes. I don't say empty, but like these lightened boxes where he's not getting touched or having to make a move until 5-6 yards down the field. It could be dirty at certain times, especially if you were finding that balance. So I'm actually looking forward to if they do go to more of a spread look. I don't think it's going to hurt the running game at all. I actually think with Derrick Henry's speed and with what he does, I think that'll actually benefit. Now, what worries is he's not the quickest left to right, and so maybe he can't jump out to some of those big wide, but I don't think it's any different from when you load the box and he's having to make those decisions in a tighter space. So I think he's got more time to develop and get that steam going again once he makes that cut. And people are concerned about Downing. They keep going back to when he was the Raiders OC. They keep saying, well, here's with his tendencies. Well, he's never had a toy box like this before, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, he had Cooper and he had some other stuff, but he's never had this. He's never had A.J. Brown, the up-and-coming. He's never had the legend Julio Jones or a resurgent Tannehill, a Derrick Henry, who's arguably the best pure runner in the NFL as far as just a running back. I mean, you can make arguments for the running back position and other guys who catch it, fantasy, all that good stuff, but this is a great offense for him to take the helm on, and what he does with it, it's going to be very interesting. Now, if they come out, I'm telling you right now, if they come out and they are primarily tight sets, I'm going to throw my hat and walk out of the room and have to, like I did at Jonathan's dad's house one day. I had to go sit on a bench on top of a hill and ponder whether I really wanted to watch the Titans game after watching them. So, but no, I think that they've got a lot more versatility. It's going to be fun. My big question then shifts over to the defense. Because last year, Jonathan, I should just let you say this because you said it. Jonathan said it was great. Said that after the season, he goes, if the Titans defense was just bad, they probably get to the Super Bowl. They're just bad instead of historically terrible. And they were historically terrible last year. So you look at all these improvements they've tried to make, getting some of the older guys out, getting a lot more talent on the cornerback position, trying to draft and really attack that. We'll see what happens. I think they're better suited. They still have a big glaring hole at Rashaan Evans, the middle linebacker, they have to deal with. I haven't been happy with him the past couple of years. So we'll just see if that defense is just capable and just stop. Get a 3 and out every once in a while. I think this is going to be a very dangerous team in the AFC South, if not the AFC and then the NFL.
You mentioned versatility, Kyle, and the thing that really gets me is there is versatility in how they can line up, but especially when you look at that wide receiver core, when you had a guy like Adam Humphries, you knew where he was going to line up. Even whenever they had injuries out there, you knew where Adam Humphries was going to line up. He's going to be in the slot. With A.J. Brown, and even Corey Davis too, last year, he was going to be your Z wide receiver. That's the position he was going to play. Now with A.J. Brown, with Julio, and with Josh Reynolds, all three of those guys can play all three wide receiver positions. So with that, with how motion has kind of evolved into the NFL and how many teams are using it and how heavily it's utilized, I mean, good luck. I mean, if Downing's doing a disservice if they don't take advantage of that in the sense, and especially as Julio's getting older, you look at what Larry Fitzgerald's done out at Arizona, as that athleticism starts to wane, start moving them inside a little bit more, and you extend that career another 5 years right there. So that's where I think that they could have a lot of fun right there.
Well, guys, y'all have gotten about a 20-minute preview of the Coach's Corner. You're welcome. You got 2 podcasts in one tonight. Make sure you go check it out. Jonathan, you hadn't been on. You weren't here at the first. I'm going to give this to you. Let the listeners know, where can they catch y'all?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot here. So you can check us out by the way. Yeah. So you can check us out at BroadwaySportsMedia.com, and then obviously we're going to be running the Coach's Corner podcast during the season. So should be kicking that off here in the next couple of weeks. Also, check me out at JB on Broad on Twitter, and then Ryan at Ryan on Broadway.
Yeah, we're also, like I mentioned earlier, the halftime hits. Jonathan and I are that. We're heavily involved in the roundtable after the games on Sundays, Mondays, whenever the games are, Thursday nights, if they have any of those. So check us out for all that. We have a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of content on the website, a lot of good stuff. Year 2 for Broadway. Really excited to get this thing started again this year.
Everybody local, we'll have live stuff this year too. More to come on that front.
Oh yeah. Look for those announcements. And Jonathan and I might actually have some live stuff coming up just for the Coach's Corner as well, if we can get some logistics worked out.
Awesome, guys. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Michael will be back, and hopefully this thing will be a little bit smoother and not just get long-winded the way it did tonight. But this has been Dad's Watching Sports. We out.